During the holiday season, many of my viewers have written to me asking, I received a new camera. What are some of the first things that I should do to set it up properly? And that's a great question. And although some of the answers will be different depending on which camera you have and how you plan to use it, there are some basic things to remember which can be helpful. First, follow the directions that come with the camera regarding battery charging. One of the most painful things to do when you receive a new camera is to charge the battery completely. Do I think that's absolutely necessary? Maybe, but I follow the directions just in case. One thing that I found is that waiting for the battery to charge really does give me the time to read the entire manual, which is definitely one of the things that I recommend doing as soon as you get your camera. This is also a good time to put a memory card in your camera. This is an easy step to forget in the excitement of a new camera, and for most cameras, no card, no pictures. Also, if your camera has interchangeable lenses, this is a good time to select a lens to start with. Or if your camera is in a kit, it's time to mount that kit lens. And if you're not familiar with the brand or type of camera, read the manual closely for the exact method to mount the lens. If you're not sure how, don't just start jamming the camera and lens together. Next, once the battery is ready to go and in the camera, don't be afraid to turn the camera on and poke around the menus a little bit. You can't hurt anything. And if you do change some obscure setting, you can typically reset the entire camera later on anyway. Set the time and date on the camera. It's easy to skip this step, but it will be a real pain later on if you're trying to organize your images and they don't have the right date and timestamp on them. The next thing I do is just set the camera to auto mode if it's not already set there, and then I take a few test shots. Why auto? Just to confirm that the camera is actually functioning and, isn't dead on arrival. I've never had a problem with a new camera, but, they're electronics, so you just never know. The reason I check this now before tweaking any settings is I just want to make sure that if the camera doesn't work the way that I expect, it's not due to some setting change that I made. Now, before you explore the camera, there's one more thing that I want you to do. Look at the dials on the camera. If you're a beginner, familiarize yourself with how to get the camera back to auto mode. Look for things that will magically change on their own as you handle the camera or when it is placed in or removed out from a bag. Depending on the camera, these little dials and switches have a nasty habit of mysteriously changing on their own. Many of the emails that I receive are along the lines of, the camera worked fine the last time I used it, but now all my pictures are dark. To avoid this, look at those dials and switches in advance so that when something isn't working quite right, you know where to check. For example, the V1 has a thumb dial on the back, which can get moved from still image to video mode quite easily. And my D800 has an autofocus / manual focus switch on the front. If this gets tripped the wrong way, you'll lose autofocus entirely and wonder why. The next thing you may wish to learn is how to do a whole camera reset. This will get you back to square one if you're experimenting with different settings and don't quite remember everything you did. Of course, the reset won't put the dials back in place, so make sure you're familiar with those too. That's it. Happy shooting with your new camera, and let me know if you have any questions.